First of all, thanks Professor Helmut for the nice introduction, and I welcome you all to my talk. I take this opportunity to thank everyone at RCC who helped me in so many ways to make my stay in Munich comfortable and to create a wonderful environment for me to work here. And also, I'm so grateful to Professor Christoph Moch and Professor Helmut Trissler for awarding the fellowship, which not only enabled me to do the research here, but also helped my family to come along with me to have a fabulous living experience in the city of Munich. Thank you. So as you can see, the title of my presentation here. So I would like to briefly give you a picture of how I organized my talk. So as you can see, I'm not going to read it. Let me introduce the mountainous areas or the hilly areas of Bangladesh. The hilly areas are situated on the country's northeast, east and southeast margins. So it's all here. But the area where I worked, it's in the southeast part. This is the one where I worked, Chittagong hill tracts. So this forms about 10% of the country's total land area and about 53% of the country's forest land. So we have the 64 administrative districts in our country, and this area covers 3 administrative districts, which are these here. These are here. These are the districts. In fact, I visited all 3 districts, in a few places of these 3 districts for my work. So it also has 13 forest dwelling communities. I would say it's true, the largest concentration of ethnic people living in a single place. We have maybe around 40 to 50, I'm not quite sure about that, 40 to 50 ethnic people, groups of people living, different ethnic identities. But this is the only place where you can see, so many different ethnic groups living together in a single place. So this, the Chittagong hill tracts represent a unique landscape which contain once luxuriant but presently decaying semi-evergreen forests. So you can see there has been a lot of deforestation. So what is the background of the research? For the research problems identification. The ethnic communities in this place, they practice traditional shifting cultivation, which is a kind of rotational farming, as you may all know. People, what they do is it involves alternating cultivation between different plots within the same location whilst leaving the other plots fallow. So there's a fallow period between successive cropping. But unfortunately, the productivity of shifting cultivation has declined over the years. And the reason is, as elsewhere in the tropics, shortening of fallow periods. Because you have to give enough time to the land to recover the fertility. So there has been a rise in population. So that's why the crop fallow periods were reduced. And there are so many other factors, the government-sponsored clear felling of natural forests, illegal felling of trees, and agricultural intensification, which I'm going to discuss later. So land degradation is an acute problem here because of the overuse of forest, clear felling of natural forest ecosystems, and monoculture plantations. And additionally, there are which you cannot find it in most in other tropical landscapes. The kind of problem that we have here is the conflicts between inland settlers and ethnic groups, and there were forced in-migration of inland people by one government back in the 80s. I mean, they were forcing people to go there to live, and they were given incentives. So that way, the number of inland population, the inland people, settlers, increased there. So there has been a conflict between the ethnic people and so that also gave rise to these growing inequalities and social discontent among the people. And there are also other people, the timber business people and the agribusiness enterprises, like elsewhere in the other tropical landscapes. They come and they introduce intensive cropping. They try to commercialize, commercial agriculture. They try to introduce commercial agriculture there, so for the profit. For profit making, etc., etc. So these people are also active there, adding to the problem. So as a result, the communities suffer from food insecurity, lack of opportunities, and they're also vulnerable to the extremities of environmental change or climate change. And there are government policies. The government, the successive governments, they have been declaring more and more Chittagong hill tracts land as reserved forests, meaning, declaring them off limits to people. The people cannot go there, access the forest there, and exercise their customary user rights. So these reserved forests are there's a complete ban on movement. The people cannot access these resources. So, and there are also they're clear failing, followed by artificial monoculture plantations. That has also created so many problems. That has reduced land available for shifting cultivation, because you cannot practice shifting cultivation in a barren place. There has to be a forested place. Then they have to clear the forest, burn it. The ash acts as a fertilizer, source of fertilizer, natural fertilizers, because they don't use inorganic fertilizers. So they have to depend on So if there is no forest, there cannot be any shifting cultivation. No traditional farming. So these are the problems that have that has led to the search for alternative paradigms for management of natural resources in the hills. That's why, that's where my research interest is, and I found some clues from these problems that I need to do some research. But unfortunately today, most scientists, policymakers and practitioners, they blame this traditional farming system for its poor productivity and deleterious effects on local environment. And I'm trying to show you how their perception about this traditional farming system, maybe not, I would say it's not entirely wrong. It's partially wrong there, at least, because this traditional farming has some significance for the livelihood and culture of the people, and also for the landscape from the scientific point of view. That's what I'm going to show you now. It's not just only we are talking about the culture of the people, and we have to preserve their culture, ethnic culture. It's not just because of that. It's also important from the landscape management point of view. That's what I'm going to discuss. So the research question that I had: are traditional farming practices appropriate today to maintain community food security and other livelihood needs? What threats the current trends of intensive agricultural practices pose to the fragile hilly landscape and community livelihood? What adaptations the ethnic communities have come up with to cope with the existing and also emerging socioeconomic and environmental challenges? And how combining traditional ecological knowledge and modern science can help solve landscape management problems? And here I give you briefly the research methods, the review of literature, focus group discussion, key informant survey, open-ended questionnaire survey of the 30 farming households, 10 each in of the 3 districts, an observation made in 30 farming plots. So I'm not going to discuss about the review of literature. which I had to do for the article that I already submitted to Journal of Mountain Science. I have already submitted an article about my work here, so there I have discussed it. And then I think I should discuss a little bit about what is traditional knowledge and modern wisdom, although I'm not very much an expert on this, because for the sake of, for the sake of the flow of the talk, and I had to discuss a little, I thought I should discuss a little. The human mind is capable of two kinds of knowledge or consciousness: the rational and the intuitive, and that have been traditionally associated with the science and religion or spirituality, respectively. In modern societies, the intuitive and religious or spiritual type of knowledge is often devalued in favor of rational scientific knowledge, although it may not be true for some people, because these days scientists are increasingly recognizing the importance of traditional knowledge and the spirituality, the importance of spirituality in our life. We cannot just be materialistic to lead our life. So rational knowledge is derived from the experience we have of objects and events in our everyday environment, and belongs to the realm of the intellect, whose function is to discriminate, divide, compare, measure, and categorize. This is the realm of modern wisdom or science. And according to Buddhist thought, intuitive knowledge, or also called absolute knowledge, is the knowledge which comes direct from experience, meaning that what we experience are always relative and approximate. So we can see a clear distinction between the two ways of thinking about knowledge systems. And thanks to the Chinese thinkers, who got Chinese friends here, who always emphasized the complementary nature of the rational and intuitive knowledge, which is good. And the Taoism is rational way of thinking, and the Confucianism is intuitive way of thinking. And I also thought that I should talk a little bit about biocultural diversity. When it comes to traditional ecological knowledge, then we need to really appreciate what biocultural diversity is. Biocultural diversity can be defined as the inextricable link between biological diversity and cultural diversity. And both of these diversities, they co-evolved. I mean, we cannot think about one except without the other. So these two are, these two co-evolved. So, and I'm trying to give an importance to bioculturalism. What is bioculturalism? It's all about biocultural diversity. It provides a perspective on land use practices and governance that are relevant to indigenous cultures or local cultures, and also which fosters relationships with indigenous cultures to promote biological and cultural conservation. So we need to, in a world where biological diversity and cultural diversity are disappearing, so we need to think about the bioculturalism. So this is an important aspect. It's an important thing. Today's global change related problems can be solved through intercultural practices. That's also important, because here comes the bioculturalism. Intercultural practices between indigenous local societies and dominant cultures, the Western cultures. And in intercultural practices, what is important? Importance must be given to the recovery of the indigenous and local people's traditional knowledge. Without recovering the traditional knowledge, we cannot engage ourselves in intercultural practices. So this knowledge is about the ecosystems and climate. Local people's knowledge about the climate and ecosystem. So that follows, this is followed by an endogenous approach that encourages biocultural innovation rooted in the materials, values, and creativity of local communities, which is required to deal with challenges faced by the local societies or the indigenous societies themselves. Because there are problems, so many problems with these local and indigenous societies. So if we want to solve their problems, we need to follow an endogenous approach, where we need to look for biocultural innovation. So biocultural innovation, it can be achieved through interplays between elements of biocultural diversity, community stewardship, and partnership between ethnic communities and science practitioners. And now I'm trying to highlight, is there any evidence that this traditional knowledge and science can work together? Yes, there are evidences. And one of the world's most prestigious development and environment policy research organizations, IIED, based in London, you may all know, they have done good amount of research, trying to find out whether these two can go together, and they have found very good examples. Yes, they can go together, and mixing them both can give you good results and can give good economic outcome to the ethnic people, to the indigenous people. So, and what they found out is that traditional knowledge in those projects, traditional knowledge is used to generate ideas that contribute to gradual process of development of suitable scientific technologies. So it's the traditional knowledge that you have to think about first, which can feed into developing suitable technologies. Somebody compared it from the IED. Somebody compared it like a software versioning, because softwares are gradually, edited, to make it more usable for to make it more user friendly. So the indigenous peoples are users here. So no fixed technology will work there. So you have to gradually develop the technology, which must be based on the traditional knowledge. And that they have, their experiences have demonstrated this. So the first step in those projects were to revive traditional knowledge. And how can you revive that? Through working with neighboring communities to share knowledge. So knowledge sharing is very important. Because we the scientists, we sometimes believe that we know everything. We don't want to listen to other people. So this is the main obstacle which need to be removed first, and we have to be open-minded to listen to other people, to the local people. So because their knowledge is not written. That's why it might not look scientific. But if it is written on some piece of paper, then I must say that it would be very much like a scientific knowledge, because their knowledge passes through oral transmission. So that it's not written. So that's why it may not be treated as an unscientific or non-scientific, whatever. So we have to be very open-minded, particularly when it comes to natural resources management. I'm not saying about the rocket science. when it comes to rocket science, maybe we don't need to listen to the indigenous people. But when it comes to natural resources management, we must listen to what they say. And then they have shown good examples in sustainable forest management, use of traditional knowledge. Because we know that particularly in the tropical landscapes, the native tree diversity has been tremendously lost. So how do you recover the native tree diversity? Only through traditional knowledge, because they know, where they can grow native trees, in which part of the landscape which tree can grow well. So we really need to go to them to ask for what species to start with. When it comes to restoration of the landscape, then it's not all the species together. Maybe there is a sequence of species which it's the indigenous people who will tell you what species to work with first. The framework species, as landscape ecologists say, or the forest landscape ecologists, they say the framework species. What are the framework species? It's not up to the scientist who will determine the framework species. It's only through the consultation with the indigenous people that we can come up with the framework species that we have to start working with when it comes to restoration of the traditional landscape. So here these are good examples. And also, they have shown that traditional knowledge can also come in so many other cases. So for example, computer modeling. In computer modeling, they feed in the community traditional knowledge to develop techniques for better community water management. And geographic information system, we're all familiar with this. It can be used in so many ways to monitor community land use and resources mapping. So here and now I'm coming to my findings. What are the shifting? Am I running out my time? Okay, fine. Thank you. And I'm coming to shifting cultivation practices and what kind of traditional knowledge is used here. Sorry, I didn't. Oh. Sorry, I forgot to. Somebody should have reminded me of. I was reading from the. Okay, here. Okay, I'll not forget. Hopefully. Okay. So what are the traditional knowledge that I have found in shifting cultivation practices? You can see the traditional forms consists of, cultivation consists of rice, turmeric, ginger, chili, and cucurbits. And it's very interesting to note that they have a wide variety of cucurbits, cucumber I mean. So many different types. These are all land races. You can't find them anywhere else in the country. It's only that place where you can. This is a huge variety of cucurbit, the cucumbers. And also they grow maize, sorghum, medicinal plants, spices, and legumes. And they have different techniques for, in different sloping areas they grow different kinds of crops. In the flat to moderate sloping land, they grow this rice, ginger, turmeric, cucurbits, etc. And steep sloping land, they can still grow annual crops, but they have to do something together. For example, they also grow the biohedgerows, the leguminous plants. They plant in between contours of the hills. They plant the biohedgerows, biological hedgerows, consisting of the leguminous plants. These leguminous plants, they fix biological nitrogen. So they enhances the fertility of the soil. So these are good. They also protect soil erosion, and at the same time they enhance the fertility. So on steep sloping land, what they do? On the steep sloping lands, there are other options too. They plant local fruit trees, jackfruit, guava, and lemon. Some people might not like jackfruit and guava, but these are called poor people's protein. This jackfruit is so nutritious, and people in those parts they do their breakfast only with this fruit. They don't have to eat anything else. It's so nutritious, jackfruit.
Really?
Yeah. You might not like it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good, and you need to drink a lot of water after eating the jackfruit. Otherwise you will not be able to digest it. So, they're so fibrous, and it stays in your stomach for so long that you don't have to eat afterwards. Guava and lemon. So why do they prefer these three species, this local three species? First of all, the locally available planting materials are there. They don't have to go to faraway places to collect planting materials. And also, this species can withstand extreme environmental conditions, such as soil fragility. This in sloping areas, soils are very fragile when there is not enough vegetation, and harshness of topography and moisture stress. And what they do in the northeast and northeast slopes, they plant local banana and plantain. Because they have got this local knowledge and where to plant what. And finally, I say that the maintenance of crop land races through shifting cultivation practices highlights farmers' essential role as local land stewards. And then, what agricultural intensification that I talked in the beginning of my talk, about what I talked in the beginning of my presentation. How does it look like there? As I have mentioned earlier, there is a population explosion, and yields from traditional farming alone cannot meet the needs of the rising population. So the crop fallow periods, reduced even to 1 year. Or ideally it should be at least 4 to 5 years, but now these days it's reduced to 1 year. And previously, maybe 100 years ago, it was 25 years. So the longer the better for the soil to regenerate. So reduced farm productivity triggered a spread of hybrids: maize, papaya, watermelon, mangoes, lychee, gourds, lady's finger, brinjal, okra, aubergine. Because these are the Indianized English, I think. Okra and aubergine. So cash crop farming of root crops. This is very dangerous. In the hill slopes, turmeric, ginger, these do a lot of damage to the hill slopes. Unfortunately, monoculture farming of these crops are increasing. And also, very recently, the mango as a hybrid variety, watermelon, tobacco also increasing because these are high cash yielding. And then, what traditional knowledge I have found in farmers' adaptations to fallow management? And they follow 3 kinds of fallow management, traditional fallows. Short fallow, right, which consists of either banana or a combination of banana, pineapple, and papaya. And you can see here. Okay, you can see here. These are the banana, plantation. And these are the abandoned shifting cultivation plot. There, the farmers are growing banana. Pineapple fallow with fruit trees, and bush fallow for fluid collection. In short fallow, what they do is, they plant all these, annual crops, and also they plant. They also allow growing herbs of medicinal and culinary use, because these plants then not only help in livelihood, but also checks soil erosion, retain soil moisture and fertility. So this is their traditional knowledge. And also, most interestingly, they also manage long fallows, bamboo long fallows. So usually we believe that. Scientists believe that the bamboo, where bamboos grow, the bamboos will not allow other trees to grow. But the farmers, they have proved it wrong. So they have shown that if they grow bamboos, if they allow naturally growing bamboos to thrive in an abandoned shifting cultivation plots, they will allow native tree species to come gradually. So we scientists, we are proved wrong, because because in the shifting cultivation plots, some of the native trees need to be burned, but they can also take measures so that these trees can come back again. So this kind of long fallows are very important for them to get back those native tree species. And what other adaptations we have found? Organic farming. It's not that somebody went there, some scientist or some horticulturist went there and advised them to do organic farming. It's their own way of doing farming, organic farming, and also natural harvests. So these are the 2 age-old techniques, of increasing household income. So they have developed gardens of organically grown local fruits of banana, plantain, and papaya. And you can see these 2. You can see here 2 varieties. These are land races. You cannot find them anywhere in the country. This is sweet, and this is sweet and sour. And this is the local names I have put in italic. So they, these 2 bananas, they can harvest all year round. So they bring a lot of money for the farmers. And also the bamboo shoots, from the naturally growing bamboo groups, these bamboo shoots are an element, essential element in their cuisine, and also the Chinese restaurants. So they go there to buy these bamboo shoots, because bamboo shoots is an important element in Chinese restaurants. And wild yams, fruits and medicinal herbs, harvested from the wild, they also used for consumption and also can be sold in the regional market. And one most important crop these days is this herb. I don't know if you have seen that. I went to, where did I go? I went to one supermarket the other day. I found this herb here in Germany. Yeah. So this is Eryngium foetidum. This is a niche crop. Well, I don't know, maybe you all know about niche crop. Niche crop means they cannot grow everywhere profusely. They grow profusely in some particular places. So the ethnic farmers, they know where to grow this, niche crop, because they can grow profusely in some places. For example, under the native tea. I'm pressing the wrong button again and again. Okay, so under the native tree species Albizia, so they can grow there, and also they can grow, some other places, some other conditions. So, but other than this niche crop, there are possibilities, of yams and other culinary and medicinal herbs that can be brought under niche-based cultivation, that can, through which farmer can earn a lot of money. And agroforestry adaptations. I don't know how many minutes I have left. 5 minutes more. Okay, fine. Hopefully I'll be able to finish. Agroforestry adaptations. Agroforestry, the local agroforestry systems practiced here, mostly woody perennial based mixed species, because agroforestry can take so many different forms, agro-silvo pastoral, agro-horticultural, piscisilviculture, whatever, livestock, you can mix livestock with, agriculture, forestry, so many. But here, the traditional one is woody perennial based mixed species, which is good, I would say, because in a hilly landscape, you always have to give preference to the tree species diversity. Because it's a forest landscape. So the farmers, from their own knowledge, they already prefer these woody, perennials, which are trees. So they are not saying that pastoral or livestock, they're not talking about this, but they're always talking about woody perennial. So the Chakma people, the one of the 13 ethnic groups, they are the pioneers in developing these local systems. I could have shown you a picture of Chakmas here. Unfortunately, don't have space for that. Anyway, the Chakmas, they are pioneer in developing this. And steep hills, as I mentioned earlier, we have got 3 districts there: Bandarban, Rangamati, and Khakrachari. The Bandarban hills are very steep, where in Rangamati the hills are not that steep, moderately sloped, and in Khakrachari very low hills compared to the other two. So depending on the topographic conditions, farmers have developed different kinds of agroforestry systems. In Bandarban, which is very steep hills, deforestation is not that high. So you can see different kinds of things. And the Rangamati also, deforestation is a little high, but not higher than Bandarban. But in here, deforestation is the highest, because the places are easily accessible, so people go there and cut trees, and so that's why in this district agroforestry is very diverse. Farmers have tried their best to recover the lost biodiversity in the best possible ways, to their disposal. So they, I'm not going through all of this, but you can see, you can read from here how the variation, the differences between the agroforestry systems. So they have got their own traditional knowledge about how to develop agroforestry to rescue the diversity lost from forest deforestation, or lost from repeated farming, shifting cultivation farming, because no long fallows can be maintained. And these people, these are another ethnic community. Most of these people are converted to Christianity by the European missionaries. So they are the people who, I would say, they're forgetting the past. They are converting their shifting cultivation plots to sequential agroforestry. They are not practicing traditional farming at all these days. They are converting their shifting cultivation plots to agroforestry. So this can be a good sign in some way, because they are earning so much money that they can buy their food from the market, the rice. For example, if you don't practice shifting cultivation, you cannot have rice in agroforestry system, in the hill agroforestry system. So they have to buy food, the essential food items from the market. So they earn a lot of money, so they can buy food from. And most important is home gardens. Because these days there are farmers who have, who are no longer practicing shifting cultivation. What they're doing, they're rescuing the native diversity. It could be vegetable diversity, it could be tree diversity, or whatever kind of diversity, agro-diversity. They're rescuing it in their home gardens. And I have given a generalized picture of how a home garden could look like, you see. So in steep slopes, gently slopes, sloping foothills, house cliffs, there's house cliffs. Papaya is very good for house cliffs, because the papaya cannot withstand stagnant water. So even the rain water, if it remains there for a few hours, the papaya seedling will die. So what they do is they use the house cliffs for planting papaya, because there's no chance of water to, so they can no crop failure. So homesteads, anywhere, banana is the one crop that fetches year-round income. So they grow banana here and there, everywhere. There is no rule for growing banana plantation. And then you can see these are all health foods. You see the pictures that I'm showing here, all health foods. Moringa. This is a typical health food because it's anti-diabetic. I'm running out of time. Okay, it's a typical health food. And wood apple, good for stomach disorder. Tamarind, is used for food preparation. And the Amblic myrobalan, I don't say it's called Indian gooseberry. I can find gooseberry here as well, but it's not the ones like that we found here. It's a bit sour. So. And conservation forests, this is very important. Farmers not only do home gardening, agroforestry, etc., but they also manage forests by themselves. They have got the committees, headed by the village heads. So you can see the diversity of species here. You see, and the old growth trees and the perennial streams that because if you don't maintain forest, you won't get perennial streams. These days, water scarcity is an acute problem in Chittagong hill tracts because of the deforestation. So, and then comes the water holes. You can find water holes in the community forest. So by managing village common forest, these people they're demonstrating biocultural diversity, community stewardship. And okay, maybe I'll have to skip this. I tried to say here is that through traditional farming practices, farmers are really demonstrating community stewardship that the science practitioners should look into. What community stewardship they are demonstrating and what we can learn from there. So this can be used in. And finally, I have got some thoughts. What I'm trying to say here is that maybe we'll have to allow shifting cultivation in some places, because there is pressure to eliminate shifting cultivation from the landscape. So I'm trying to argue here is that in some places where it serves to restore native diversity and ecosystem and enhances ecosystem services, there we have to maintain those traditional farming systems, and also we have to encourage cash crop farming, because we have to improve the socioeconomic conditions of the farmers. Without cash crop farming, that cannot be done. So I'm also arguing that cash crop farming should be there, but not using the hybrids. Try to use the local crops. there are so many promising local crop varieties which, if brought under cash crop farming, can enhance farmers' income. So why should we go for hybrids? Let us try first the land races. That will also help conserve the local biodiversity from being lost. And then I again say that the biocultural stewardship is very important, and which can inform the science practitioners. When they develop landscape management strategies, they can make use of this. And then finally, I have got some questions, because I'm not living as Chittagong hill treks. I'll be doing further research in this area, and the moment I'm struggling with a few questions about, I have done all this. This sounds very good, but how can I take this message to the policy people, the practitioners, business people? And I need to convince them. And what next I have to do? What kind of research am I needed to do to get the message across? And then also there are other groups of people, the activists and the advocacy people. They also know a little about the socio-cultural and ecological importance of maintaining these traditional farming systems. But there's a knowledge gap, and how I can reach them, how my research can better inform them to better, they can do better in their movements to raise the issue of protection of these traditional farming practices. Thank you.